Welcome, everyone, and Happy New Year. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I was just waiting for some people to show up. And Happy New Year, of course. Let me know if you can hear me okay or if I should adjust the volume. Let me check the settings on my end. So Happy New Year, everyone. I'm just checking the settings to make sure that I have my microphone at full volume for you guys. How about now? Is that better? I think it was a little bit down. I'm not sure why the system always does that. Probably never completely understand that. Could be software glitch. But it's great to see you guys. Welcome. Happy New Year, Marcelo. Good to have you here. And yeah, what I wanted to do is for those of you who want to join me, this will probably be shorter than last time because I have some meetings coming up later. But I thought I'd jump on. First of all, I wish you a Happy New Year. I think hopefully this year is going to bring a lot of blessings, a lot of prosperity, a lot of great results for each of you who's working hard to take things to the next level. And whether you're working with me, with us, or with someone else, really hoping the best. And big things are coming. I feel that big things are coming. I know for a fact this is going to be a big year for the projects that I'm involved in, including the Freedom Studio. And of course, I desire the same for you as well. What I also wanted to do is spend a little time reading through Creditors and Their Bonds. I had started doing that in November, and then I've just been so busy that I didn't get a chance to continue. So if you haven't watched part 1, there is a live from the end of November. You may want to watch that one too. And you can also follow along with your own copy. Now, as far as I know, just double check something. I haven't seen any specific copyright claim in the Creditors and Their Bonds, so I think it's okay to share it. So I'll just share a link here for you guys if it will allow me to. Give me a second. Just copy that link. Okay, I think that should be okay. Okay, post it. Yeah, so if you want to grab a copy, you can do that. And just before I get into that, a few quick announcements. What do we got going on? So as you guys saw, we've completely rebranded from conditionalacceptance.com to the Freedom Studio so that we can fully embrace our new, and I would say enhanced and expanded mission. And we're in the process of finishing the new website. In the meantime, you can still use the old website. Once the new website is launched, we'll just smoothly redirect you to the new website. I'm trying to get it done certainly by the end of January. I was actually going to hire someone to help me, even though I know how to do it, just because obviously I'm very busy. But I was actually, unfortunately, or maybe it's just a good lesson, I was very disappointed by the poor quality of the proposals I received. Some of them seemed very inflated with a lot of extra stuff that I didn't ask for. And this is something when you guys, those of you who are business owners or going to become business owners, you're going to want to really pay attention to the quality of the proposals that you receive from potential vendors and suppliers. Really vet those things out and make sure that you're good with the quality of what they're offering, and that they're not trying to pad their offers with a lot of extra stuff that you don't need just to charge a higher fee. I'm all for paying for the quality of the service, but if you ask for something and they come back and add all this extra stuff, to me, that just tells me that they're not really aligned with providing a valuable service based on my specification. That's okay. So I've taken it in-house, and between me and my team, we can definitely bang it out between now and the end of the month. It's not going to be, it's already a third done, and should be good. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we have launched the Trustee Network. What the Trustee Network is, it's a private monthly membership, and we're pretty much focused 100% on setting up trusts. And we focus mainly on private irrevocable trusts. And I would say even more specifically, private irrevocable business trusts, although we can also touch on family trusts that are used for asset protection and not just to conduct commerce. But that's going to be a large part of it. So it is a private network where, as a member, you're going to be able to attend weekly or bi-weekly live calls where we can go over anything related to trusts. You're going to get access to the trust templates that I have created or developed based on what I've learned and what I've been using. You're going to get to meet others who are either looking to act as trustees or even hire trustees. And if you yourself want to learn how to offer your services as a trustee, even on a part-time basis, there's going to be ongoing education and materials to help you basically become a trustee and offer those services to the market. So that's what it is. It's a private community. It's all about creating trusts and working for and with trusts privately. Okay, so if you want to join, I will share the link here. I'll go ahead and share the link. You guys can check it out. Let me know your thoughts. So that's the other big thing. Other than that, things have been pumping along. We've got our membership still going strong, and we get about 30 to 50 people show up every week. So you're welcome. For those of you who are members, great to have you. Definitely join a session. And for those of you who want to become a member, I'll just share the link right here. But I think this year I expect, excuse me. I expect this year to be a year of a lot of blessings and a lot of growth for all of our members as we move into our second year of operation in April. So the 1-year anniversary is going to be in April. So before I get into the material, drop some love in the chat. We have a few less people than usual, probably because people are still recovering from their New Year's celebrations, maybe sleeping in. And also the fact that I don't really tell people when I'm going to be doing these. So in some ways, it's a little unpredictable. Let's see. Marcelo says, I was not able to see anyone there to connect with. When you say there, what are you referring to specifically? In this forum, we always speak very specifically so that we can maximize understanding each other. We don't speak in vagaries. Susan Augustitis says, thanks. Hey, Susan. Susan's one of our original community members back from just about when we started. Great to hear from you, Susan, and Happy New Year to you. Glad that you're still following us. And awesome. Yeah, so just drop some love on this video and to get it pumped out. And feel free to comment where you're from. Are you brand new to this work? Have you been involved for a few months now? I'd just love to hear where people are at. And also kind of what are your goals with respect to operating privately? Are you just getting started? Yeah, just let me know. I'm not sure if you're talking, are you talking about the trustee network? Because you would have to join. It's actually a separate membership from our Freedom Activist membership. It's specific membership just for trusts. So it's a new membership. So when you follow through, it would just give you the option to enroll if you wanted to do that. Okay, it's a wholly separate membership. Cool. Let's get into creditors and their bonds, since this is going to be a shorter live and we won't have as much time. So if you recall, I left off roughly on page 13 the last time. And like I said, go back and rewatch the other live that we did. And that will make things a little easier. So I'm just going to continue on page, I believe it's page 13. Actually, it's page 14. Okay, so I was close. Page 14. All right, so let's go ahead and read. This section is called Establishing an Agreement of the Parties. So remember, everything we do in commerce, it's all based on voluntary free will. So everything basically boils down to agreements. So in the pamphlet, the author describes 11 steps to this process. So let's just go through them at a high level first. Step number 1, respond, accept and return. So number 1 is respond. We have a duty to respond. And in responding, what we do is we accept and return that presentment. Step number 2, we need to correct any mistaken presumptions. Very important. We want to correct any mistaken presumptions. Step number 3, we want to use negative averments or averments. Negative averments. What is a negative averment? Comment in the chat. Comment in the chat. What is a negative averment? Go ahead and comment in the chat. I want to see where you guys are at with this. What is a negative averment? Go ahead and comment in the chat. What is a negative averment in the context of an administrative process? Anyone? Susan says, having a lot of fun with Amex. They keep sending coupons. I keep endorsing as they award in court. Okay, so what you probably want to do or think about is how to discharge that court obligation. So this is kind of what I call the fork in the road. The fork in the road. So the fork in the road is really the jurisdiction that you want to operate under in order to address these matters. Okay. Now, both of these options have you operating privately, but because they're different jurisdictions, they operate differently. So in common law, which is the administrative process, you would continue to use affidavits. And if you showed up in court, which you would do to stay in honor, you would do what's called a special appearance. But the challenge there, of course, is, well, you'd have a choice. You would have to either do a special appearance and challenge jurisdiction, or you would have to be in general appearance. So if you're going to show up in general appearance under common law, it would be best to perfect your administrative process and then you file it in court. That's on the common law side. If in equity, things are a lot simpler. There's no particular status required, and even the paperwork is a lot simpler. But you would need to learn how to bring equity because you need to be able to see it all the way through to the end, just like the administrative process. So you would need to learn how to bring equity to the court if you had to show up in court, because you're not necessarily going to be able to avoid that 100% of the time. Okay. So either way, all roads lead back to the court in one way or another. The question is, do you want to bring equity, which is a jurisdiction that exists in all of the courts, or do you want to stick with an administrative process? Okay, Susan says, what is a negative averment? It's a roundabout way of correcting their false presumptions. Right. So what you're doing essentially is you're saying, well, this is not true. For example, there is no debt, but I also invite you to disprove that and to prove that, in fact, there is a debt. Okay, so that's what the negative averment is in the context of these presentments. Again, because there is no money, because the only way to actually discharge these obligations is with our signature, we're simply standing on that. And when they make claims that we owe them money or that we have to send them something other than our acceptance, we invite them to disprove, to prove the positive claim. So that's the negative averment. So that was step number 2. I'm sorry, step number 3. Step number 4 is make a request. Make a request. Step number 5, show your good faith intent. Show your good faith intent. The spirit of what we're doing on this platform is all about non-controversial, good faith. Look, we just want to operate in commerce privately. We're just looking to do business fairly, respecting natural law. So that's kind of the spirit of what we're doing. So we always want to demonstrate that in all of our words and our actions. GC asks, are they denying it because they don't know, or is it done intentionally? It's done intentionally. Everything that the system does is to hide the Emergency Banking Act and hide the fact that because all the gold was taken away and there is no money of exchange anymore, the only way to actually pay an obligation is with performance or acceptance. So they're going to hide it all the way to the courts. And particularly when you learn how to bring equity, you're going to see how important it is to expose that. But yeah, many of them are sworn to secrecy. Those who are secret society members, for example, they swear on their life to not reveal these things. So denying or playing dumb is one of the easiest ways to lie about anything. And most of them are very good at it. Most of them have been trained their whole life. There are certain people at lower levels who may genuinely be compartmentalized and just don't know. It's just like maybe I didn't know once and you didn't know once. So sure, there are people like that, but at the higher level, or where it really matters, at the operating level, they know exactly how it all works. But so do we. And so now that we know or are learning how it works, we can simply operate in the same level. Okay, non-controversially. So that was step number 5, show your good faith intent. Step number 6, set a time limit. Okay. We don't want to leave things open-ended. Time is precious. My time is valuable. Your time is valuable. We've got stuff to do. We can't let this drag on forever. We want to minimize the time, not only the time over calendar time, but just the amount of time that we spend on things, right? Now, of course, as you start to operate privately and you become a trustee of your affairs, you can pay yourself as a trustee, or you can be paid from the trust that you set up or trusts. So you can now be compensated for all this work. But still, we've got more important things to do than to, dwell on one presentment. So let's make it quick, folks. So set a time frame, okay? Set a time limit. That's step number 6. Step number 7, file a UCC 1 financing statement. Okay, we're going to see how to do that. And obviously, we want to take care with that. And just remember that a UCC is not a lien itself. It is the evidence, the public noticing that a lien or some other security interests exists in some property by the creditor over the debtor. Okay, so that's, but it in itself is not the lien. Okay, so we're going to see more about that. Maxim or Maxime, Truth and Cash says, Happy New Year. Thanks so much, Maxime. Good to have you with us. Happy New Year as well. I appreciate you showing up. Yeah, so this community, just to make sure you're in the right place, we're all about operating in commerce privately, learning how to operate privately through our corrected status, through our secured party status and our private security agreements, then through our private trusts, principally private irrevocable trusts. And then finally, with all of those pieces lined up, now we can start to use negotiable instruments much more easily and with full authorization, and just remove all the resistance as we work in parallel with whatever our business endeavors are, whatever our commercial endeavors are, the products and services that we want to offer the world that are unique. Jen says, I think you're great. Well, thanks, Jen. I appreciate that. I think you're great too. In fact, I know you are, because we all have the seed of the greatness within us. And it's just a matter of tapping into it. That's all we're doing. We're just tapping into it. All right, so let's keep reading. So we talked about step 7, which is the UCC. Step 8 is the second notice, because remember, when you're doing these administrative processes, there's going to be, in some cases, multiple notices, because whatever could happen, they didn't get the first one. I mean, that's pretty unusual, but hey, we want to just be thorough. And then finally, we're going to send number 9, we're going to file a release of interest. We're going to see what that means. Number 10, we're going to send a notice of termination. We're also going to see what that means in context. And number 11, sending confirmation letter. Okay, so some of those last ones, we're going to have to see what the author has to say. Okay. GC says, do we need a hold harmless agreement? As part of your secured party / creditor status correction and process documents, yes, you will have a hold harmless agreement. As always, I highly recommend that you work with someone who can walk you through that process. At the Freedom Studio, we collaborate with Creditor Academy and with Divine Trust Babies. The reason is because we don't have an in-house status correction and SBC process. So rather than trying to build one from scratch just to have that option, we decided to partner strategically with 2 other organizations to offer our community members some choices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a link to a document that's called our high-level strategy. It's called the high-level strategy. Some of you guys will already have this document. And this will guide you through how to get that SPC process done and the status correction. But whether you work with one of the organizations that we recommend, whether you work with someone else, whether you do it all yourself, it's really important that you study. I mean, that's fine if you come and ask me, hey, David, do we need this? Do we need that? That's fine. But this is not a class on how to do your SPC. So it's going to be important that you properly either compile the list yourself from your own research, or you work with a mentor or a group, even a study group that is specifically focused on that, so they can walk you through all the steps. Otherwise, you're going to end up doing it piecemeal and you're going to miss something, and it may or may not have an impact on your process. So hopefully that makes sense. So let's keep going here. This next statement in the book, Creditors and Their Bonds, I really appreciate the fact that the author wrote this. The author said, note, study groups are extremely useful in understanding and developing this process. Let me say that one more time. Study groups are extremely useful in understanding and developing this process. Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's why now with the Freedom Studio, we have 2 private study groups. Okay, and we may down the road merge them, but for now they're going to be separate. So we have the traditional study groups, the membership that a lot of you guys are involved in, either Freedom Activist or Sovereign, which is more general and covers everything that we discuss. And then we have the Trustee Network, which is 100% about setting up private irrevocable trusts for both asset protection and also for your commerce, and also either offering your services as a trustee or hiring someone to become a trustee for you. So that's the trust. Those are the 2 networks. I posted some links. Everything's on the website. So, yep, that's what we got to do. How would you correct your status in the UK? Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure who the UK. I would look up Richard Vobes. Richard Vobes. He's got a pretty active YouTube channel, and I think he probably knows who does status correction in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. That's a good question. All right, let's keep reading. So now we're going to kind of, the author's going to kind of break down a little more information about each of these 11 steps that we just talked about. Okay, so let's gain a deeper understanding. So step number 1, if you recall, which is where it all starts. This is something that most of you guys have probably already been doing to the best of your ability. It's just maybe you haven't continued beyond this step. And that, of course, is to respond. To stay in honor, we always want to respond. And in this case, what is response? It is accept and return. Accept and return. Okay? Think of a tennis game. Your opponent lobs the ball over to your side. You accept it by hitting it with the racket, and you return it back to your opponent's side of the court. It's like a big game. Okay? Accept and return. That's all we're doing. So let's keep reading. Within 72 hours of receiving a presentment, return the presentment with your acceptance. If there is a $ blank involved, so an amount, an endorsement is required. Okay? So if there's an amount, whether blank or otherwise, like a $ amount, an endorsement is required. In this case, the presentment is the check being sent to you so that you can, quote, pay the bill. There is no money, so they have to send you the money to pay the bill. Identify the presentment that you are accepting and return on your cover letter. Okay? So type of communication, letter, statement, invoice, the date, the name of the signer or the name of the company, and the cover letter does not need a title. This is the common law process. In equity, they use titles, but here what the author is saying, in the common law process, we don't need a title. Okay. How about Canada? I'm assuming you're asking about the SPC process in Canada. Some folks in network just asked me about that. So I reached out to people that we have in network who've already completed their SPC in Canada, and I've asked them if they can recommend someone. I'm just waiting to hear back from them. But some of these folks are active in our general Telegram community. So if you're not a member already, you can join. I'll share the link to the Telegram. This Telegram is open. It is private. It's not a public forum, but you don't have to pay or subscribe or anything to join this Telegram. We also have a Discord community, so I'll share that with you guys, for those of you who haven't joined yet. We've got a pretty thriving community on Telegram. We have 3,422 members. It's a pretty sizable community. I also wanted to mention, I'll make a quick plug for our upcoming event on January 11th. So on January 11th, which is a Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, for approximately 2 hours on Telegram, you will find myself speaking live with one of my mentors, Julian Swan, who is a mentor in equity. I just finished his 13-week graduate level course on equity, and it's very powerful. I know some of you in network have enrolled in the next cohort starting in February. But what we're going to do with this free live event is it's going to be a general introduction to equity as a jurisdiction, as a process to obtain a remedy for a wide variety of issues, including setting off your public obligations, what we're talking about today. So check that out. But that's a different jurisdiction than what we're talking about today. Most of what we're talking about today is common law. Okay, but let's keep going. So that was step one, accept and return. Whatever process you use, whether it's in equity, common law, I mean, anything you do, that's really the only way that you can set off these accounts is through accept and return. And of course, to stay in honor, you always want to accept and return. Okay. Step number two, correct mistaken presumptions. Okay. Sometimes, maybe even almost all the time, there's going to be something said in their presentment, something presented that they presented that isn't correct, even though ultimately you can still discharge the obligation as we're discussing. Okay. So here's what the author has to say about this. Address each presumption made in the presentment that is not correct. Okay, one of the important things that we need to do, and this is true in life as general, is something's not correct, we need to immediately call it out. One of the reasons why so much evil is propagated or perpetrated in the world is people don't say no. They don't stand up and call it out. That's wrong. It's wrong to coerce. That's incorrect. You're making an incorrect assumption. So we need to reflect that in our commerce too. We need to reflect that in our paperwork. Okay. Remember, it's just business. Take all the emotion out of it. Here's an example, quote, it appears that you have made a mistake in presuming that, da, da, da. Your letter appears to imply that, da, da, da. But the record shows, da, da, da. So you can just correct the record. You can also ask it in the form of a question. Does the public record not show that, da, da, da? Whatever the correction is to their mistaken presumption. Okay, and I'm sure the author will later on provide some examples for that. But it's very important to correct the presumptions. Susan, so city filed against me. Yeah, so we always want to stay in honor with respect to the court. So one way or another, I want to encourage you to find a way to discharge that court obligation. So like I was saying earlier, there's really only 2 jurisdictions. Remember, this is just business, nothing personal. It's just, these are just assumed contracts, but they can be discharged because it's all happening on the public side. Anything that happens in the court is 100% on the public side. You just need to learn to either bring it in equity or use common law to discharge it. So just reference what I just talked about. And just see how you want to discharge it. If you have more specific questions, you can always bring them to one of our private study sessions as well. And Michael says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Michael. Great to see you here. All right, let's keep reading. So we just discussed correcting mistaken presumptions, very important. We don't want to let anything mistaken stand on the record. We always want to speak up in a non-confrontational, it's just a business, correcting the record. Almost like you were just sending a filing within your own corporation to a department saying, hey, just want to let you know the following is incorrect. If you could just correct your record. That's it doesn't have to be something emotional, right? So just keep that in mind. Step number 3, use negative averments. Okay, this is a big deal. Negative averments. We talked about that. So, how does this work and why is it so powerful? Instead of defending what you have done in the past or denying the presumption made in the presentments, turn the denial around to be a negative averment. So here's an example of a denial. I didn't violate any law, or I didn't do anything wrong. Okay, here's the negative averment for the same matter. Your letter did not state how my actions are in violation of state law. Are you guys gelling with that? Okay, so the denial version is, I didn't violate any law. I haven't done anything wrong. The negative averment for the same issue, the same claim, is your letter did not state how my actions are in violation of state law. So you're basically passing the baton right back to them to prove their positive claim about your behavior. Right? Does that make sense? Comment below. Warm welcome to the 30 people who are watching this live across the 2 platforms, Facebook and YouTube. Great to see you guys here. Z says, hey, David, good to have you in the house, Z. I know you've been on a few of our lives. Melissa says, it's just business, nothing personal. Yeah. When we stop taking everything personally and we just think clearly about, okay, all I need to do is just clearly apply the codes and laws as they apply to me, and you're golden. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Okay. Yada says, Happy New Year, all. Great to have you with us, Yada. Yada's been an active member in our community. Z says, put the burden of proof. Yeah. See how powerful that is? Instead of saying, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, now you're still making claims. You're still making claims. I didn't do anything wrong. Your correspondence doesn't provide evidence to prove that I've done something wrong. You see how much more powerful that is? That's the power of a negative averment. Okay. So let's go back to the reading. Here's another example that the author gives. You did not include your source of authority to make a demand for performance. Okay. So everything they send you telling you must do this, you must do that. It's a demand for performance under some presumed contract, whether valid or otherwise. Okay. So what you're doing is you're calling into question that they actually have the authority to make that demand. So the authors note, whatever the form in which the government functions, anyone entering into an arrangement with the government takes the risk of having accurately ascertained that he who purports to act for the government stays with the bounds of his authority. And this is so even though, as here, the agent himself may have been unaware of the limitations on his authority. Okay, and that's actually a citation from some case law from Federal Crop Insurance Corporation versus Merrill. That's a 1947 ruling. So when you read the book, the pamphlet, I should say, it's more of a pamphlet, you'll be able to get that citation. Okay, so if this is making sense, if you're getting value, smash through the like button wherever you're watching this. That's how you pay for this free video. And that's also how you secondarily help me push this content out to more people. Okay, so smash through the like button. If you're getting a lot of value and you want to continue following what we're doing and learning more, I invite you to either subscribe on YouTube or follow on Facebook or both. And we also have a Rumble channel. Let me share that with you guys because I know sometimes these things are hard to find. We have a Rumble channel that's been growing nicely. We have almost 1,000 followers on Rumble, which is awesome. Really good stuff. If you guys want to support an alternate platform that is more resistant to censorship in general. All right, so let's keep reading. So we're reading Creditors and Their Bonds. This is the second session. We're currently on page 15. And I did provide a link if you guys want to access the PDF. There is no copyright claim in this or author claim in the manual. So I don't think there's any issue with sharing it. So I did share a link. If you scroll back up in the comments, you'll find that. So let's keep going. So another example of negative averment, we want to really inculcate and kind of let this marinate in our minds because it's such a powerful concept. So here's some more examples. You did not provide the documentation I requested in my previous letter, dated. Okay. Your two options to respond to a claim are one, to deny, which is called negative defense, or use an affirmative defense. An affirmative defense is the production of evidence through a third party to overcome or bar the presenter's claims. That which is denied is admitted. Okay, think about that. That which is denied is admitted. Failure to object timely is fatal. The proof lies on him who affirms, not on him who denies. When the proof of facts is present, what need is there of words? The claimant is always bound to prove. And those of you who've studied the maxims of commercial law will recognize this next one. He who leaves the battlefield first loses. Finally, the affirmative defenses establish the facts of the matter that now must be overcome by the presenter. Okay? So this is all about negative averment. You're taking, instead of making a negative claim like I didn't do it, your documentation, your authority doesn't provide sufficient authority to make this claim against me or to obligate me to perform in this way. Okay? Right back over to their court, their side of the court. That's how it works with negative averment. All right, let me know if you guys have any questions about that. Let's keep going. Now we're in step number 4 of these 11 steps, which is called make a request. Make a request. So once you've established that you have received the presentment, you have accepted the presentment, and you are returning the presentment, and there are mistaken presumptions in the presentment, something that's not corrected, and the burden of proof is on the one making the affirmative claims, it's time to make a request. Now, if there was absolutely no mistake in their presentment or mistaken presumptions, do you have to do this? No. If there's nothing to request other than what has been presented, then there's no need to do this. But in most cases, probably in many cases, there will be. Okay. So you need to make a request. What do you want? Well, I would think you would want, as per the author, closure of an account, production of evidence, delegation of authority, specific performance. You've got to decide what it is that you're asking for. Okay, remember, we're conducting business, we're doing commerce. Okay, as peers. No one has a higher standing than anyone else. So you're approaching this as a peer. Keep it short and ask for something. Many people believe you should make a demand instead of a request. Pay attention here. If you've studied those words and you feel you need to make a demand as a matter of right, then make a demand instead of a request. At this level, I do not see that it really matters. A request is often made in business matters. It is more cordial than a demand. Okay? And I actually concur with the spirit of that. Yeah, I would say for me that just encapsulates the spirit of how I want to conduct myself in my affairs and just take out all the controversy. So keeping it simple, making a request. So let's keep going. So make a request. That was number 4. Number 5 is show your good faith intent. Criminal charges are often brought for acts done with no criminal intent. Correct. Why is that? Because under natural law, which everybody in this community, we're all students of natural law, right? And I did a lot of material about natural law on my other channel, my other YouTube channel, which I will share a link for you guys now. This is different from the Freedom Studio. It's an older channel that I have. So I want to invite you to, if you're kind of new to studying natural law, you may want to do that. Okay, but pay attention here. All crime is commercial. You've probably heard this. All crime is commercial. So listen to what he's saying. Criminal charges are often brought for acts done with no criminal intent. Okay. Ignorance of the law is no excuse for doing something that is against the law, but harsh punishment for doing an act does not adhere to due process of law. If you had no intent to commit what is considered to be a, quote, crime. Civil actions are initiated to get, quote, money or other property. This is where your exemption is useful, but they like to act like there is no value in your exemption. Okay, what is your exemption? Anyone, what is your exemption? Go ahead and comment in the chat. What is your exemption? What is your exemption? Anyone, what is your exemption? All right. Nobody knows what an exemption is. Well, an exemption is basically a waiver of an obligation. Okay, so you are exempt, for example, from paying your public obligations through your exemption, which is linked to, in the case of the United States, it's linked to the Social Security number, which is linked to accounts on the back end managed by the Treasury and the IRS. So that is your exemption. Okay, so let's keep reading. This is where your exemption is useful, but they like to act like there's no value in your exemption. It is good to include a statement like, quote, I am making every effort to follow the law. There is so much, quote, law and so many different jurisdictions in which there are different laws that your intent to follow God's law carries over into political law. I agree with that. Everything, all of our understanding and application of natural law will permeate everything else that we do. The author is calling it God's law. I call it natural law, but it all refers to the same thing. It refers to the inherent operating conditions of this reality that were set in place by the Creator. It's something that we cannot be exempt from. We cannot free ourselves from. And the master manipulators of this world, one of the things they do is they know full well that they can't get out from under natural law. So instead, they try to subvert it in other ways and pervert it through their different practices by weaponizing your ignorance against you. Okay, using psychology and weaponizing your psychology against you. That's principally how they do it. I've talked about that extensively on my other channel that I just shared. So you guys can go check that out. There's a lot of great material about that, but that's essentially what they're doing. But when you adhere to natural law or God's law, and that pervades all of your actions, you are protected by the highest law of creation, which cannot be subverted. Okay, and that will spill down into all of your affairs, including your business affairs. So that was step number 5, which was show your good faith. Everything you do, show that you're acting in good faith, and you're just looking to settle the matter as per the agreement. That's all you're looking to do. You're not looking to add any controversy or create any difficulties. So let's look at number 6. Since you are using a commercial guidelines as a basis for your process, the presenter should do that also. Be sure to give him a date on which you expect a reply from him. Some situations only allow for 3-day response time. Others should allow for 14 days or 30 days or even 60 days. It depends on the situation. If you're using 3 days as a response time, you also have to allow for mailing time. Usually 3 days each way plus a Sunday is sufficient for replies to demands which the presenter should have what you're requesting in his possession. Okay? If there is processing involved on the presenter's end, a longer time is warranted. So the long and short of that is you just want to be fair and you want to come up with a reasonable time frame that takes into account mailing time, the availability of what they need from the other party. In other words, they already have it all ready for you, or is it something they would need to process or prepare for you in order to send it to you? So you need to just take that into account, maybe buffer that time a little bit just to be reasonable. Again, we always want to be honorable and reasonable. And then that's the time frame that you give them, because we don't want to leave things open-ended. So that's number 6. All right, number 7, file UCC 1. Okay. So when to file and when not to file. And he's going to provide some samples that we're probably going to see later on. Yep, they're going to be later on. I just clicked, so let me go back to where I was. We'll talk through some samples in a minute. So in this case, and this is generally, let me just caveat this. This is normally done as part of the secured party / creditor process. So I would recommend that if you plan to do that, then just do the entire SPC process. And if you go look at the high-level strategy document that I posted in the chat, we link to a couple of different organizations that can walk you through that. There are many others. It's one of the most common processes that you can get help with. So you're going to have a lot of choices. But all I wanted to say is instead of just doing the UCC as a separate filing, I would recommend doing everything as part of your entire paperwork, because you're much more likely to have success with it. Okay. So what that means to say is, for this process to be more successful in common law and the private administrative process, a prerequisite to that is to do your SPC and status correction. That is not true for equity. Equity does not require any particular status. You're not going to hurt your equity if you become an SPC and correct your status, but it's not strictly required in equity, but it's a different process. Okay. So on your UCC, I'm going to skip that because, again, I don't want to give partial instructions when it's really best to do it as part of your entire SBC process. So I'm just going to skip that paragraph. Just know that you want to have perfected your security interest in your debtor in your ens legis as part of an SBC process or some paperwork before you do all of this. Okay, so that makes it a prerequisite. Okay, so step 8, send second notice. So you can use Jack's letter. I'm assuming he's referring to an example that he's going to give, or mail a cover letter with copies of the notice and other papers previously mailed. So he'll show an example of that. The purpose of a second notice is to give the presenter a second opportunity to correct the mistake he made in making the presentment or not settling the account. Okay? So what you're doing is you're going to accept the presumption that he made a mistake and it was non-intentional. So now the presentment is, whoops, you made a mistake. I accept it. It wasn't intentional. You're going to be accepting the presumption that he was unable for some reason to respond to your first notice. Okay? So whatever happened, you're just like, whoops, a mistake was made or something got lost, no big deal. It's just business. We just need to accept that. Okay? A second notice is the same as the old notice of fault or the notice of default. Okay? So this is kind of a refining of the notice of fault or notice of default. This step is part of law merchant and the grace that is given to debtors to help them settle their accounts without going to war. Again, it's all just about being fair. It's all about, taking the high road, giving people an opportunity to correct their mistakes. Hey, I accept the fact that it got lost in the mail, that for whatever reason you weren't able to respond, that you maybe misunderstood something. Whatever happened, I accept it and return it, and here's your second opportunity to cure this matter, to bring resolution. So going to court is like going to war. Going to court is like going to war. And actually, that's more true now than ever, because if you notice in all the courts, the flags always have a gold fringe, and I think there's also an eagle or a phoenix on top. And that certifies that you're in a wartime jurisdiction. Okay? So just pay attention next time if you are in court to the gold fringe around the flag. If you were to see, for example, an official from your country or from the U.S. in this case, in another country, and the flag were flying, it would not have a gold fringe because it would not be military occupied territory. Okay? So just pay attention to that. So yeah, going to court is like going to war. Now, if you have to go to court, and folks, we're going to have to go to court sometimes. Okay? I don't recommend going as the plaintiff if you can avoid it. But sometimes, especially if you're doing the common law process, you're going to have to do that. In equity, you're always the defendant, which some people like a lot. We're going to learn more about that. In equity, the position of the defendant is always preferred. But in the common law process, there are times when you might be the plaintiff. Okay? So just keep that in mind. That was step number 8, which was send second notice. See if you guys have any questions. Happy January 1st, Lisa Marie. Yes, in the courts, specifically, I know that's true. I don't think it's true across the board, but I could be wrong. Let me just check something on that. It's a good question. So if you look at the flag in front of the White House, it does not have a gold fringe, at least according to the photos that I've seen. And it's been a while since I've been to the White House. But yes, in a court, it will have the gold fringe, and that will indicate that you're in a wartime occupied territory. Okay. Nick asks, please, can someone in the chat tell me what is an SBC? It stands for Secured Party / creditor. So it's actually two different but related terms. A secured party is someone who has a security interest in some property, and a creditor is someone to whom a debt, who basically has security interest in some debts. Okay, so there you go. Let's keep going here. Great questions. So in step 9 is to file the release of interest, which is the UCC3. And there's going to be an example that we're going to go into a little later about how that actually works. And he says the same thing that I've said over and over again, which is these commercial forms, meaning the UCC forms, are only notices. I've said that so many times. They're only notices. They're not the actual creation of the obligation. Okay? The man or the woman is not involved in this process. It's all done by the straw man or the debtor. Okay, so those notices are happening on the public side. Step number 10, send notice of termination. If you have terminated the claimant's interest in the collateral, notice must be given to the claimant so he has an opportunity to object. He cannot just object. A naked objection is a dishonor, and no one can win while in dishonor unless the other party is also in dishonor. So what does that mean, a naked objection? It's basically just an objection with nothing to back it up, right? So he, meaning the opposing party, must produce his authority to object and a reason why he is objecting. Everything has to be backed up. His objection cannot just be based on his disapproval. Like, I just don't like it. I think you're ugly, so I object. Sorry, that doesn't work. Now, he may try to trick you into joining him in dishonor. They're very tricky, so don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. And we're going to see a sample in a bit, what that looks like. We'll walk through an example. So that's step number 10. Step number 11, send the confirmation letter, not confirmation, conformation letter that you're conforming. The purpose of the confirmation letter is to document the agreement of the parties. Okay, we need some kind of agreement in document. When you gave the claimant notice that you had terminated its interest in the collateral, you also gave it an opportunity to object to the process you used. That's like an appeal. So like we're running court here privately through our paperwork. An appeal is only used when there is a procedural effect in the process that led to a party to a court losing the case. Okay? Only when there's a procedural effect, not an actual admission of guilt or innocence. Instead of taking the appeal on this non-judicial self-help process to a court, you give him the opportunity to submit evidence. So you're conducting your own appeal process. Okay? Now, if the opponent does not send anything, you send the confirmation letter. Okay? As with all parties of the non-judicial process, this is sent by a notary certified with certificate of service. So again, in these processes, everything is notarized, everything is sent certified, and everything is sent with certificate of service. Those of you who start to operate in equity, you're going to notice a difference because in equity, you don't have to notarize most of things or certify them, and you almost never use a certificate of service. Okay? Stay in honor at all times. Actually, before I read that last part, let me just see if you guys had any questions or comments. Let's see what you guys have to say. I told my mother yesterday about the bastard child and the mother's unmarried, and she thinks I'm insane. I would actually be a little careful with that. I mean, I don't want to sow seeds of fear or worry, but most people are highly programmed, and you would be surprised how these programs can be activated in their minds, and they can literally turn things around and gaslight you. Right? Even that they think that in their own mind that they're just looking out for your best interest. So what I recommend is to expose people to these things gradually, and mainly to expose them through your actions and your results. So for example, I'm an educator, so I just keep getting up and educating, and in parallel taking action on all these processes and just demonstrating that. So I would just do that. I would just conduct your affairs. You're not looking for anyone's approval. You don't need even your parents' approval. And when the time is right, you can demonstrate what you've been able to achieve through this knowledge. Because if you just start dropping these little hints and there is no context, of course, people's inherent programming, they've all been programmed and they continue to be programmed by the mainstream, then you're making it hard on yourself to even, you're basically going to be creating potential situations where now you're going to have to protect your own interests from them, because they may try to, in the extreme case, commit you to an insane asylum. Okay, I'm not saying that would even happen most of the time, but you have to understand the psychology behind the mind control and how deeply programmed people are. Okay. So let's see. So my entire family has gaslit me. Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of that from my family. At some point, you just got to laugh. Just laugh, let it go, let go of the need to control their thoughts about you, even though they're your family, because you can't control other people. It's beyond your control. Release that, because you don't need their permission to be you. And you can love yourself enough to be who you are truly without their approval even. Although, of course, if you have family on your side, that makes things easier, of course. And then just recalibrate and focus on what you need to focus on, and then lead by example through the results that you achieve, right? So sometimes if you just know something, just know enough to be dangerous, it's like somebody hands you a gun. You've never shot a gun before in your life. You may have a vague idea of how to shoot a gun, but if you're not aware that, for example, the safety might be off, or how sensitive the trigger is, you could literally shoot yourself in the foot. Okay. So we want to become more responsible in the use of all the tools that we're using. And that's why the education is so important. So let me go back here. Just checking something. All right. So stay in honor at all times. Do not argue. Do not deny or defend. Do not accuse. Do not protest. Do not testify. And by the way, in equity, it's the same thing. In equity, this is one place where equity and the common law agree entirely, which is we're not here to argue anything. Okay, we're not here to argue, dispute, disagree, take that all away. That's all dishonorable behavior. There is a way to resolve every matter, whether in equity or in common law, while staying in honor. Let me just repeat that. You can always resolve every matter while staying in honor. Okay, and once you can grasp how important that is in terms of getting better results, you're going to really see a level up in your performance of your ability to, to get things done. Okay, you guys are funny in the chat. It's pretty funny. Sub-bullet A, use third-party witnesses. If there's a chance in the future that you will need to prove that you communicated with the presenter to bring closure to this matter, so think if you ever have to go to court, for example, or file in court, be sure to use a third party to mail your communications. A certificate of service is a good thing to use every time something is mailed. Certified mail with a return receipt is also a good choice. The one who mails your communication is a witness. Your witness can be a notary. The Postal Service is a witness. The certificates of service and green cards can be used as an affirmative defense in the matter if the matter is not settled through the administrative process. Keep copies of everything for your records. If you're using a notary as a witness, the notary can be the custodian of the records. Okay, and there are notaries who offer that service. It's like an add-on to what they already do, because now the notary would have to send things on your behalf through the post office, for example, with them as the sender. And also they would have to receive and monitor any responses back to them on your behalf. Okay, so that's why it's a whole extra service. It's a great service. If you're a notary, that's a great service that you could offer this community. And if you are a notary and you already offer that or want to, go ahead and send a message to me through the website. I'd be happy to talk to you about how you could offer that to community members. Like I said, we have a pretty big community. We have about 3,400 people on Telegram. We have more than 20,000 YouTube subscribers. We got more than 1,000 members in our private community. So it's a valuable service that for those who need it, that could be very valuable. So if you're a notary and either already do or want to offer that notary of protest, certificate of service, then just send a message through the website. I'll share that page on the website real quick so you can get in touch with us. Just go ahead and share that here. Nick says exactly right, David. I'm not sure which you were referring to, but I appreciate the affirmation. I appreciate your the support. Reach out to the postal inspector after my return. Interesting. Well, I don't know which specific document you said registered. Was that part of the SPC process? Was it something else? I'd be very interested. Obviously it depends on the context of where you're sending it. There's probably a certain number of times where it's returned genuinely because it just isn't deliverable. But yeah, it would be interesting to see what the context is. They're going to put up obstacles. Obviously, we just need to be aware of that. So that was third-party business. B, have a plan. Have a plan. Don't start something that you can't finish or see all the way through. Don't just shoot from the hip. Another bad strategy. Okay? It's better to take a beat and study study these things a little more deeply, and then take it to the next level. Okay, step B, before you mail the first communication back to the presenter, have all the papers you think you might need or know you will need already written in your computer. Have a complete plan before you start anything. Okay, so the non-judicial side, it consists of your notice, first notice, sometimes a UCC1, second notice, certificate of non-response, termination of claim, which is the UCC3, confirmation letter. On the judicial side, it's basically filing your paperwork in the court. You are in control of your process. When you filed your first UCC1 and sent your notice to the Secretary of the Treasury, this is the SPC process, you started on a journey to be responsible for your financial affairs. That's exactly right. Granted, that is difficult when there's no money in circulation. It can be done if you understand what you're doing, how to do it, and why you're doing it. This is not about money. It's about responsibility. I love that. That's what we talk about. This, natural law and operating morally is largely just about being responsible. Being a sovereign is just about taking full responsibility to all of your matters. So that's just beautiful how that coalesces with what we're talking about. All right, let me see. Looks like we're going to get into a whole new section. I think I have time for one more section. He's talking about the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and he says one of the remedies when demand is made and there's no obligation is to use the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. It is not a pure acceptance remedy. if this is used, is a fiction that uses it. John in all capital letters is the consumer. John, your true name is not the consumer. Okay, and I've said this to people on any number of occasions, is that invoking the FDCPA, it's entirely on the public side. It's your straw man doing all of that. This is not a remedy that you're coming from the private. That's why I never personally use it or recommend it. I have tried it in the past, didn't really get anything out of it. Maybe I arguably didn't use it properly, but I no longer look to the FDCPA for any remedy because I would have to operate entirely publicly. So it's only one page in this manual, so I'm just going to skip that. For those of you who are more curious about how that matters, or does that matter, then you can read that section. So next time when we finish, we're going to continue on page 20, which is called If the Matter Goes to Court. And I'm going to start winding down here because, like I said, I have another commitment, so I wasn't able to stay as live as long as I did last time. But just to wrap up here, if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, I appreciate everyone. You guys are great. And I'm looking forward to some really, really amazing progress and achievements in this new year, 2025. So welcome, especially, and also welcome to new members, new followers, subscribers. Z says, thank you. Thank you, Z. Really appreciate you. You guys are great. I'd love to hear if people can chat, comment in the chats. I'd love to get some feedback. Who here has already corrected their status and has established their secured party / creditor standing with their PSA and the $100 million bond and the rest of that process? So comment below if you've already completed that. And if you're willing to share who you worked with, you don't have to. Sometimes people like to keep that private. I'd love to hear if you've already done that. I'd also love to hear from anybody who has some experience with equity. If you've already studied equity, or if you've even brought equity in some of your cases, I'd be very interested to hear. Or conversely, if it's brand new to you. So we will definitely continue we're definitely going to continue creditors and their bonds in future videos. I apologize for the long delay between the end of November and like more than a month, but there's just been a lot going on, and I want to obviously stay consistent. So Lisa Marie says, nope, there's 295 to do. Yep. Remember, the lien or the bond is just the insurance for the security interest that have in your debtor. Okay, so it's just one piece of the whole. Michael James says, thank you, David. Much appreciated. Varuhis, I apologize if I butchered your name, says thanks. Kelly, referring to equity, I believe, because I know Kelly signed up for equity based on my suggestion. Yes, the best thing I've found, and we'll be putting it to work this month. Amazing. Yep. So Kelly and I both graduated in the same cohort. Amazing. Michael says, not yet for me. Okay, that's okay. You guys are on a journey. The most important thing, I say this to folks all the time, almost more important than anything else, are start with the end in mind. Get clear, document your life's mission statement. I'm talking about the big questions, folks. What are you here to do? Why are you here? What is your life's purpose? And don't just tell me it's just to, pay the bills and because that ain't nobody's life purpose. You just got to discover it, okay? And it can take you a while to figure it out, and you may have to peel back different layers to uncover it. For some people, it'll be much more obvious, but figure that out first and create a mission statement with to the best of your ability of what you want to accomplish. That's the first step. The second step is now you're going to start to reverse engineer and create your action plan, your project plan. Okay. So in your project plan, you will include all the different processes that we work on here, such as your status correction paperwork, such as setting up your private irrevocable trusts, such as establishing your business entities, such as, basically obtaining the ability to tender negotiable instruments and through your bank and discharge your obligations that way. Okay, so whatever it is, and anything else that's important to you, maybe how to grow your staff. Okay, so yeah, that's what it's all about, folks. So let's see what some folks are saying. Nick says, study, and study some more. I'm glad I've got these groups to go because I'm really stuck in my head. Yeah. So my advice for you, Nick, not knowing you very well, is don't get stuck in your head. So we always want to find a balance in life. So study as much as you can, or, make study a regular part of your process, and then take some action based on feeling, talk it through with your mentors and teachers and say, well, yeah, I'm ready to take some action. Great. There's going to be points along the way where it makes sense to go ahead and act, so that you're not just keep putting things off indefinitely in the future. Because anybody can study forever. Everybody can lock themselves up into like an ivory tower and just become an academic, but it's not really going to help. It's all based on practical application. Wake many up and get out of the slavery system, says Kelly. Yeah, that's great. And like I was saying earlier, the best way to do that is in my opinion, is through being the example. Be an example, educate, influence, share great ideas, show and demonstrate what is possible. It's a great mission. Job DL Molina says, exactly, I'm at the part creating my plan. Well, that's great. Just do it. And you know what? That's something you can develop iteratively. So create a first draft of your plan. Create a first draft and then keep going back to it. Read it often, maybe every day in the beginning, maybe at least once a week, your mission statement. Keep going back to it and keep optimizing it and keep getting re-energized by it, okay? Because the emotional content that you ascribe to it will help you also to build up the emotion, okay? The motivation and the desire to keep going. And the more it resonates with you, the easier it will be to do that. Trip says, do you know a notary in Colorado? Not offhand. I did make a call earlier that if anyone in our community is already a notary and wants to offer their help, just send a message to the website. We'd be happy to create a vehicle where you could offer that to the entire community. And I think, as we can see, that's probably something that can be very helpful to everyone. Omar says, is there some way for a consultation? Yes, there is. Let me share that link right now. Appreciate you asking. So we do 1 hour consultations. That'll either be with myself or with Shawnee, aka Blue, who's another team member. So let me go ahead and share that link. And you can go ahead and schedule a consultation either with me or with her. And on that page, you're going to see, so that's the page right there, conditionalacceptance.com/services. Again, we haven't moved everything over to the new website yet. So, and it looks like I can't post the link on Facebook. So at least not on the Facebook page. So you may have to look for it on YouTube or just go to the website and look for services. Okay. So happy to meet with you. If you do decide to meet with me in consultation, the way I like to do the consultations, especially if this is the first time that we're meeting is real quick just to get to know you, what your high level goals are. How have you been operating commerce? Are you already a business owner? Are you looking to become a business owner? Have you never considered operating commerce privately? Maybe you're just an employee, but you want to transition. What are you most struggling with? What are your top, pains? Like, as far as like IRS debts, property taxes, credit cards, bills that have racked up, whatever it is, court cases. I mean, anything at all on the public side, anything at all. So we'll look at that. And then kind of what you've studied, what you've tried doing until now, so that we can together create a strategy that's going to create the shortest path between where you are and achieving your goals. Okay. And it's not necessarily just going to be one path. You're going to have choices to make. For example, I can't make the choice for you of whether you want to principally use equity or if you want to use common law administrative process, which is generally incompatible. So yeah, I mean, I think there are some things that you're going to have to choose. I can never choose for you, but the goal during these consultations is to maximize the strategy and give you like a very concise, blueprint that you can use so that you're not like spinning your wheels. You're not just studying all the time and you're not making any progress, because nothing's more frustrating than that. It's great to have the theoretical understanding of what's going on, but unless you can start to apply practical results in your life, does it really matter that you grasp certain theoretical concepts? Probably not. Job DL says, thank you, David, for your response. I'm always motivated more at this time. Always looking forward to success. That's amazing. And I look forward to success for you too. And hope, now that you're a part of our community, if you showed up here and you stuck with us, you're part of the tribe now, even if you've done nothing else. And if you want to explore what that something else could look like, join the free private community on Telegram or Discord. You can join our membership, which is only $7.77 a month to start. We also have the trustee network. That's a slightly higher investment if you just want to go all in on setting up trusts. That one's going to be $33.30 a month. I'll just post a link to our main membership, which is like our most popular, the most popular thing we offer, because you get access to so much material, and we do live weekly calls with me and other team members. Okay, so if you're interested, here is the membership, and you guys can join as well. Let me see if you guys had any other questions. I'm doing it for the future of our kids and what I stopped watching people suffering. Okay, I didn't understand the last part of your sentence, but yeah, I mean, it's for the future of humanity, for all the kids, for the next generation, but for us who are still around. I mean, if we can make things better incrementally day by day, why would we not do that? If we can already start to make the world a better place, why would we not start right now? Okay, so the study part is important, but then the action part is going to be pretty important. Yeah, I mean, that's what's at stake here. I mean, this is a spiritual battle that's happening principally in the mind. It's happening in the mind, and your opponent is very good at weaponizing psychology. And what they do is they basically keep most people lazy, ignorant, and apathetic. Lazy, ignorant, and apathetic. I mean, I'm not sure how I can state it any other plain way. And as long as most people are lazy, ignorant, and apathetic, then it's going to be very easy for them to keep bulldozing them. It's a cakewalk for them. But when we start to empower ourselves, we start to care, we start to make the effort, make the sacrifices, study, and then take action, it could be game over in a day. I mean, I know some people think that's a ridiculous statement, but if enough critical mass is reached, the whole system would just transform. And I'm not even saying what would happen, whether it would topple over or something else. I'm not making any predictions, whether it would transform or just, disappear. But definitely something better would be put in its place. Yeah, that's why you're having so many distractions. if I had a dollar for every time somebody asked me what my favorite sports team is or what sports I like to watch or my goodness, I could have a millionaire's bank account just from that fund. It's such a deep part of this is why, trying to wake people up incrementally or piecemeal usually is not going to work. You guys don't appreciate the level of programming. Go check out my other channel, freedomvibe.art, Freedom Vibe Art on YouTube. I'll post the link one more time. This is my older channel. Those of you guys who have already subscribed to the newer channel should definitely follow the old one as well. That's the channel right there. On YouTube, username Freedom Vibe Art. Doesn't have as many subscribers as this one, but it's got some amazing content. Z says nothing new under the sun. Bread and circus to keep the mask. Yeah, it's just different variations of the same theme. It's kind of like sophistication, playing a different game. Absolutely right about that. Nothing new under the sun. All right. Any last questions here before we wrap up? Questions or shares? Anything at all? All right, seeing some comments in there, but no specific questions. So we'll probably wrap up here in a minute or two. Great to see you guys as always. Happy New Year. Wishing you much success and prosperity. For new members or new community members, even if you haven't joined our actual private paid memberships, if you're with us, you're now part of the tribe. Hopefully you're in the right place. And our goal is to just impart you with as much knowledge to empower yourself to step fully into your sovereignty, to operate in commerce privately, and ultimately, most importantly, to realize your life's purpose while obtaining the resources you need in the physical reality in order to actually realize that life purpose. That's the deeper mission behind the mission. It's not just about discharging your public obligations. Of course, we want to learn how to do that through our performance, but that's just a means to an end. The end is really the mission itself. So I appreciate you guys a lot. And thank you so much. We got 52 people on right now. And Lisa Marie says, what a great way to end it. 2025, bring it on. Yep, lots of sunshine, lots of casting the light on the darkness. Great things are coming. Keep moving forward. Don't get trapped into fear traps, or don't let the what do you call it? The gaslighting get under your skin. Don't let them get under your skin. Okay? Keep moving forward. And I appreciate you, and I'll see you guys very, very soon.